In here is your propane tank regulator. And if you look towards the top, you'll see this little lever that flips left or right. And that lever is to select which tank you're using, whether it's this tank or the tank on the other side. In the center, you'll notice it's green, and the green means good. That means you have gas in the tank. When the tank runs out, that'll turn red, and that's how you know it's time to refill one of the tanks. So a couple things in here. There is a light up here. By the way, all of the lights in the camper, they'll all have a switch that you can turn on and off. There's a little button there to turn those on and off. So that's your cover. This is your starter kit. There's also your grill, your table for the outside, and hanging up on the wall there's some crank handles. These are backup cranks for the jacks and the slide outs. I'll show you where those go as we come to them. So this storage compartment here, this is where your battery's located. It's in the sealed box. There's also a key switch here, and this is to turn the battery on and off. So this is used when the camper is being stored. So when you're not using it, you're going to want to shut that off, and that's to prevent the battery from going dead. Usually when we park these, if it's going to be sitting and you can't plug it in, then that's when you shut the battery off so it doesn't go dead unattended. There's another light in here. You can see a little button there to turn it on and off. On the front of this, you got some switches. So this is to turn. There's a light on the front of the unit. So that turns that on and off. And this is to raise and lower the jacks, being the front jack. So that puts those up and down. So this is your other propane tank. And this is also where that crank goes if you have to manually crank it. So on the side of the tank here, you'll see there's a little piece of duct tape covering a hole. And if you peel that tape off, you'll see a hole. And the hole lines up with the motor for your slide out. Your jacks. And you can see that's the duct tape, the back of it right there. So if you ever had to run these jacks manually, you come over here, you take that piece of tape off, and you put that crank handle in, and that'll allow this to raise and lower the jacks for you. So inside here, again, you got another light. That's your power cord for plugging in the camper. There's also up here, there's a small control box, and this is for the bedroom slide out. And this is not something that you typically have to touch, but I just want to show you the location, because one day if the slide out seems like it doesn't want to move, you might have to come and check this box. There's a reset button on there. There's some directions on there how to reset it. Again, not typical. It's not something you have to really know how to do, but I just want you to know where it's located in case we need to find it one day. So over here, this is where you connect your water into the camper. This is like a little outside sprayer. So it's got a little hose on it. You can just, rinse off the pipes and stuff out here. So right here, this is where you connect your city water in. And then by using these valves, and there's a nice little diagram here. So this is where you set the water system, whether you're dry camping, city water, winterized, etc. Basically, I know you guys are going to the campground. You're going to use this pattern here where it says city water, and you just leave the valves positioned like it shows in the picture, and you connect your hose and you go from there. When the unit gets winterized, whoever does that, they need to follow the diagram here to make the water system function the way it's supposed to. There is a black port here, and you'll see this says tank flush. That's used when you empty your holding tanks. And if you come right outside and you look under, you'll see this is your holding tank drain connection here. There's two valves, black and gray. As you know, gray is your sink and shower, black is the toilet. You connect your tube and you open those valves one at a time to drain your tanks. When you do the black water tank, that's when you can connect your hose here and let it run for a minute or two, and that's going to flush the tank out for you. There's also an outlet up here if you needed to plug something in. There is a switch here to turn on your water pump. There's another switch inside to turn on the water pump, but this camper, they added a second switch outside to turn on the water pump. And the reason for that is when you're winterizing, you don't have to run back and forth 5 times. You can just turn this pump on and off when you're doing the antifreeze. You know, at the campground, you're going to leave those off. You're not going to be using that pump. You're going to connect into water and just set that to city water, and it'll work for you. Those are satellite and cable inlets. If you have access to that at the campground, you can plug that in. And the last thing, there is a little pass-through port here, and this is to run your hose and your cable wire up and stuff, so you can lock up this door, you know, once you get everything all connected. All of these doors, by the way, you're going to see there's a magnet on the side of the camper, and when you open this door, that's to hold it up for you. There's a little light over here. These just have buttons under them to turn that on and off. So this is just a storage compartment here. And if you look under the unit here, you'll see that little white valve. That's your freshwater drain. Okay, that's if you know, if you're going to go to a state park or someplace and you put water in your tank, that's to drain off the fresh water. Again, at the campground, you guys probably aren't going to be using that. So this is the power inlet. That's where you put your electric cable in. This is to fill that tank. Again, this is if you're going to go dry camp or state park or something. This is where you fill your freshwater tank. Again, you guys probably aren't going to use that at the campground. You're going to be connected permanently, so you don't have to mess with any of that. This little button here, this is to run your rear stabilizer legs. And you can see that brings them down to the ground. And then you hit retract, and that picks them up. So these jacks here, these are going to be the last thing you do when you're setting up your camper. So this has to be parked on your site. You're going to open your slides. You're going to level it. And this is the last thing you do, is you put these down to stabilize it. These do not lift up the camper. They're not to jack it up or level it. That's got to be done, you know, conventional methods. Those are just stabilizers. Just keep that in mind. Over here, this is these are the vents for your fridge. Again, that's controlled from the inside. You really don't mess with them out here. That's your outside speakers. This black rail here, this is where you attach the grill and the little table. And this is the vent for the stove. If you're going to cook inside, see there's a little flap right there. So just make sure that the flap is unlocked. And then, you know, normally over the winter and stuff, when you're storing this, you're going to want to kind of just snap it shut, and it's closed up tight. Okay, over here there's an outlet. There's also a cable. This is if you want to put like a little TV outside, you know, you can do that. That's the vent for your furnace if you have the heat running. Okay, this is the water heater. So this is the vent for the water heater. And again, this opens for maintenance, but you know, typically you leave this closed. You really don't have to do anything in there. You run this from the inside. The only time you're going to go in there really is when you go to winterize this unit. That's got a drain under that cover, and that drains the water heater so that it's dry over the winter time. Okay, now these steps, and you see I have them down already. These just basically, you know, they just lift up and down. This has to be done, you know, you have to open the door all the way in order to open and close the steps. So I'm not going to do that right now, but I want to show you there is an adjustment. And if you look down here, you'll see a removable pin, and you can see 4 holes. And I have this on the, you know, with 4 holes out, and that changes the height of this step. You know, if you're on a hill or something and you needed to adjust this, you can pull the pin and move that leg in and out, and that'll make sure your steps are level. On these steps, you want to make sure that the door has adequate clearance to close. And you know, right now I don't have the camper level or the steps level, and I want to show you when I go to close the door, you see there's a small gap here. Okay, and that'll allow the door to close. However, if we did not have the step level and positioned correctly, I'm going to pick up on this, and you can see it'll hit the door, and you don't want to scratch that up and damage it. So always check the first time that the door can open and close properly and it doesn't interfere and rub on the step. If it rubs on the step, so that's when you're going to take that pin out and you're going to raise that foot up 1 or 2 clicks so that you've got adequate clearance here for the door to close. Okay, so a couple things in here. Again, we mentioned this before, all the lights have buttons. These are a little different. These don't actually have a button, but you just push up on the bulb to turn it on and off. Okay, well, that's how those work. There's a little button here to turn this one on and off. There's one over here under the sink. This is like a little extra light, a button to turn that off. Most of the other lights, they're going to be controlled on your panel here. So you got these ones up here on the ceiling that are pretty high. You can't really reach them. So those are on this switch right here. Oh, I'm sorry. See, this does the light over the stove. And if you look down here, you'll see interior. So that turns on and off your hallway light. Okay. And then if you look over here, these 2 switches run your ceiling lights here. So this does the front half and this does the back half. So most of your light switches, they're all run right on this wall. You got your stove light, your hallway light. That's the first one. So if you're walking up, you can find it easy. And then over here, these turn on and off, you know, the rear lights. This switch, so this turns on and off. I'll show you the ceiling fan here, which also has a light. And that's got pull chains also, so you can pull the chain if you want to, you know, turn the light on and off there, or change the fan speed. But this is the switch for the ceiling fan. So I'll go over the rest of the stuff on this panel. Down the bottom here, you got a porch light. That's the yellow light that's on the outside. The awning light, that's an LED strip that's under the awning, lights up under the awning. There is a blank here, so that doesn't do anything. You got a step light, which is a little night light that's under the camper. It lights up kind of where you step in and out. And the Wi-Fi, that turns on the Wi-Fi booster. That's if your campground has Wi-Fi, you can turn this on to boost the signal. And if you want to turn that on, you'll see underneath is a sticker, and that's got your name and your password and the control panel access code, so you can log in and configure that the first time you go and use it. If you're not going to use it, you just leave it turned off. These open and close your slide rooms, 1, 2, 3. And you'll see there's a blank here, and the last one says awning, and that opens and closes the awning. And I'm going to show you that a little later at the end of the video. I'll put in a section for the awning and show you how to run that thing. Up here, these are your holding tank gauges, so this will show you how much water is in your tank. For example, if I wanted to check my black tank, I'm going to push black. And then if you look here, you see it lights up empty. But as you have water in the tank, you'll see all the lights come on. Once all 4 come on, that's full. That means you need to go empty that. Don't use it anymore until it's emptied. So there's another button here for your water pump, which is typically used when you're dry camping. When you're at a campground with a hose, you're just going to leave that off. Up top here, these 2 switches will turn on your water heater. And you can see there's 2 modes on this RV. You can do water heater electric, and you can do water heater gas. Now the gas will work anywhere, so if you don't have electric, you can run the gas mode. But really, if you have electric, I mean, I would run the electric mode, because then you're not burning off all your propane. If you want to run it on electric, you just flip that switch, and that'll give you electric hot water. This switch here, the tank heater, that's used for winter or, cold weather climates. If it's going to go below freezing and you still have water in the system and you're in here, then you can turn on your tank heater, okay? And that'll hopefully protect your tanks. It's a extra blanket, to keep a little heat in there. It heats up. You still have to winterize it. It's not a substitute for winterizing. It's just to give you extend your camp season a little bit. That's really the point of that thing. Now this is a little remote control here, and I'm going to take this off and we're going to walk back. This is to run your ceiling vent here. Again, you can see how high this is. You really can't reach it. That's why they give you this little remote control. So on this remote, there's an on-off button right here, and that'll turn this thing on and off. There's also an open close button, and that's this one on the lower left. So what I did now, you heard the little motor running, I opened the vent. So if you want to just leave it open, that's when you're going to use that open close button. And if you look here, it'll tell you vent's open, fan is off. If you want to turn the fan on, that's what this button does. So now I'll hit the fan on. And if you look on the panel here now, you'll see fan's on. It's running at 60%. And it's taking air out. This fan only runs as an exhaust, so it's always going to say air out, by the way. It'll never say air in. Some of them do, but this one's an out, exhaust fan only. It also tells you the temperature in the room, and it also tells you the set temperature if you'd like. There's a couple extra things you can do here. If you want to increase the fan speed, you see there's a plus and a minus. So you can hit this up, and this will bring your speed. I'm sorry. Let me back up a step here. There's an up and a down, and you see it's got a little picture of a fan on it. This will change the fan speed. So see, I've gone down to 30% now, and that really slowed that down. If I hit the up, it goes to 100%, and now this is really moving a lot of air. So that's what the up and down does. The plus and the minus change the temperature. So just for the heck of it here, let's say I set this to 70 degrees, and now I'm going to push auto. So I want to explain what's going on. Now that I hit auto, first of all, it turned the fan off, and it closed the lid. But you can see it says fan auto. It doesn't say off. So what auto does, it's going to monitor temperature inside the unit. Again, right now it's telling me it's 59 in here, and I set it to 70. So that means once it hits 70 degrees inside this unit, this will automatically open and turn the fan on and help to cool it off. All right. Then once it goes below 70, it'll automatically turn the fan off and it'll reclose. So that's the auto mode. If you want to run it on auto, again, you don't have to run it on auto. You can turn auto off, and you can just turn the fan on manually like we did earlier today, and you can always run it that way. I'm going to shut this off entirely, so it says off, closed. And I just want to point something out too. When you're using this, make sure you are pointing the remote at the vent. That's the sensor right there. And this beeps. You know, every time you hit a button, you'll hear a beep from it. Okay? If you don't hear the beep, that means the fan did not receive the signal. So, you know, if you point this the wrong way and you know, you turn it on, yeah, okay, great. Now it says on, but you didn't hear a beep. If you look up here, didn't do anything. So always make sure, you know, you point this at the fan when you're using the remote. And that'll just stay there when you're not using it, by the way. Over here, this is a thermostat, so this is for, you know, heating and cooling, okay? And right now this is turned off. Now this thermostat, this has a lot of features for 2 zones, like if you had 2 air conditioners. So you can see like there's a zone button here and it says zone 1. Those buttons, they're not going to really that zone button's not going to do anything here because, again, this only has 1 air conditioner, so you can just disregard that zone button. But what you do here to turn this on, you're going to hit this system button, and you can see it says system off. If I hit system, you can see it goes to cool. I'll hit it again. It goes to heat, and it goes to off. Okay, so every time you hit that system button, what that does, it's either going to tell the system you want heat, you want cool, or you want it off. And I'm sorry, this is your air conditioner, you know, that's up there, and that blows out of those circle vents. Your heat's in the floor, that's your air return, and the heat blows out of the floor vents. Okay, so just for example here, I'm going to turn on your air conditioner just to show you how to do it. So again, hit system. So it says cool. That's step 1. Step 2, you're going to use these buttons, and this sets the temperature. So let's say you want to make it 68 degrees or 67 degrees. So you set that to 67. Okay, air conditioner just came on, and it's going to run us to 67 degrees. Right now I have this on high mode. And you'll see down here there's a button that says mode, and I'm going to push this button and show you what this does. This will go from high to low. Now low's great at night because it slows the fan down so it's a little quieter. There's also an auto, and what auto does, auto will switch between high and low as it's needed. So if it's really hot, it's going to be on high. If it's only cooling it down a couple degrees, it's going to be on low. And then once it reaches your set point, it actually shuts off. So that's what auto does. But you can choose if you want to run it on auto, you can do that. Or if you want to run it on, high cool, that'll make sure it stays, the fan runs all the time. That gives you more circulation that way. Some people like to do that as well. There's also, as you'll see, it says fan high and fan low. So that doesn't actually make cold air. That just runs the fan to circulate air. So when you're using the air conditioner, make sure it says cool. And the little snowflake, that's actually going to make cold air. Make sure it's on that cool setting. So that's your air conditioner. I'm going to turn the heat on now, show you that function. So hit your system. And now it's gone to, you can see it change down here from cool to heat. Gas heat. A little flame popped up. And the same thing. Now you can set your temperature. You want to make it, 67 in here. Or whatever. That's going to run your furnace now. So now you've got heat coming out of the vents. I'm going to shut this off. So I'm just going to hit system. And now you can see it's gone to off. Now the display is going to stay on because what it does, even though it doesn't do anything, the number just shows you the temperature in the room. Basically, it shows you that right now it's 61 degrees inside the RV. Okay, down here, that is that's your GFI outlet. Okay, now this runs other plugs in the camper, so you know if something's not working, you have to come over here and reset that plug. That's the main plug. There's another one in the bathroom you can see by the sink. Okay, that's another GFI. If that trips, it's going to shut off outlets. I think the way they do these right now is that bathroom outlet is going to run everything in the front, so the bedroom and whatnot, and this GFI is going to run everything in the back. This panel, this has all your fuses and circuit breakers. If something's not working right, you know, you can go in there and you can check over those. Not typical. You guys have to really touch any of that stuff, but again, I want to make sure that you know where everything is in case you need to look at it. So there's this another switch here on the wall, and this runs, you know, the lights in the bedroom. Okay. There are also some additional lights right here, and these just have buttons. You just push the button to turn that light on and off. Now there's an outlet you'll see on that side of the bed. That's a 110 outlet. There's also a 12 volt outlet, and there's USB ports. You can charge a cell phone or something right over there. There's another outlet down here kind of hidden. Point to that for you. And that's under the bed, so you know you can plug something in over here if you'd like to. This bed lifts up of course too. You just grab it in the front and you can raise that for storage. There's a little handle here. Okay, so just grab that. Now when you go to close this, you know, you got to push down a little because it does have the shock on there. But once you get all your blankets and stuff on there, it'll probably be a little easier to do. So there's another exhaust fan up here. Now it's the same fan you have down there, except this is no remote. This you're going to open and close, you know, with the crank handle here. And then this is the buttons to turn the fan on. You got 4 speeds here, you know, high and a low. And again, just to keep in mind, these fans, and there's 3 on this. So there's one here, there's one in the bathroom, and then there's one all the way down there. But all of these fans they're exhaust fans. These don't push air in, they only bring air out. So you need to have your window, you know, cranked open or something so the air can come in when you're using these. The other thing about these fans too, these all have factory installed rain covers on them. You can leave these open in the rain and run them and you won't get any water in here, which is nice. I mean, if it's like, you know, a downpour or hurricane, then close them obviously. But, you know, typically if you get a, you know, regular rain, you can leave those open and you'll get ventilation. That's the bathroom one right there. Also on the bathroom wall, you got a light switch here. And it's, again, you know, you come in at night, you don't want to fumble up here. You just remember it's on the wall, you'll be able to access that. Now these toilets, these have a foot pedal on the side of the bowl here. And this pedal, I mean, you know, you push all the way to flush, obviously. If you push the pedal halfway, that fills with water. And, you know, before you use this, you're going to want to fill this with water first, especially in a fifth wheel, because this toilet, as you can see, it's on the second floor here. It's not directly above the tank. There is a length of piping between the toilet and the tank that you don't want to get a clog in. So the best thing here is make sure you use a little extra water when you flush this thing. Especially in a fifth wheel, it's more important. Trailers don't really have that issue because there's no second floor. The toilet's right on the tank, but with a fifth wheel, you got that extra length of piping here. You want to make sure you got water to carry everything into the holding tank for you. So this is just a rubber bit. This just holds the door when you're driving, you know, make sure that thing's latched up. All right, then in here, you know, that's your shower head and your shower fixture. I do want to point out this does have this water saver valve that's installed on here. This is standard on all the Flagstaffs now. Now for you guys in the campground with a permanent setup, you're just going to leave this down all the time, and this is going to work like a regular shower. If you ever went to a state park or someplace where you didn't have water and you were relying on your tank, that's when you flip this up. And what this does, when you flip this up, it'll preheat the hot water so you're not wasting your water down the drain while you're waiting for it to get hot. But this only works, this, when you flip this up, it only works if you got your pump on and you got water in your freshwater tank, which, a nice thing about the campground, you hook up to the hose, you don't got to mess with any of that. So you're just going to leave that down and just use this like a regular shower, okay? If you flip that up, it's not going to work right because you're not going to have your pump running, you're not going to have water in your tank. So you could just ignore that little lever, just leave it down, and it's going to work like a regular shower for you. These doors too, I just want to show you this. This is a magnet, this strip here, and when you get in to take a shower, when you push these together, see how they just kind of snap in place, and that kind of will create a seal. So when you go to open these, sometimes the magnets are stuck. You might have to put a little force on the handles here to pop them loose. Then obviously, again, before you drive it, make sure you got that thing, in the locked up position. All right, so up here's the, the microwave, and that's pretty self-explanatory. Down here's your stove. Remember, anytime you use a stove, you want that fan on, and remember to open that flap on the outside. So these are your control knobs here. I'm just gonna light all the burners to kind of go over this, but you turn these knobs on, and that starts the gas. There's a button here, and you want to hit this button, and that lights. It's like a grill sparker. Just hold that down until the burners start. Now the oven, there's a little extra step. And you can see this is off right now. To light the oven, you're going to push the knob in and turn it until it clicks. And you can see it says pilot. And once it won't turn, you can feel the knob is kind of stuck in that position. At that point, you have to push this in with your thumb. And then with your other hand, you're going to hit the ignite. And when you're doing this, you're going to want to peek in the oven. And if you look down the bottom, you'll see the little pilot light has come on now. So you're holding this in with one hand, you're pushing this with your other hand, and then you're going to look down here for the pilot light to come on. You can see a little blue flame. It's running now. I want to show you another trick too. If you kind of open the door on an angle, sometimes you can see a reflection of the pilot light. It's not showing up on the camera, but I can tell you, I'm looking with my eye, and I can see very clear that the pilot's running in there. So that's another trick, just so you don't have to get on, stick your head in there every time. Just open the door, you'll see the pilot. Now, once you get it lit, you got to keep holding that, about 20 seconds, and then you can push the knob in and put your temperature on. And if you look in there, again, I'm looking in the reflection. You can see the flame come on, and if you look under there, you'll see the flames on too. When you're through with the oven, you want to go all the way to off, and that shuts this off. Just keep in mind, this knob locks. So again, when you have to push it in to turn it, and then it's only going to go a little bit, and it's going to lock again, and that's pilot. So you push it in, you light it, then again push it in slightly and turn it, and that'll set your temperature here. Going back, you'll see they lock. You got to push them in order to turn them. Okay. Anytime you use a stove, make sure this glass top is raised. When you're traveling or you're not using it, you know, you can close this up. But anytime you're cooking, whether the burners or the oven, you have to have this up. The oven, the heat comes out right back here and it gets pretty hot. So make sure, even with the oven, make sure you got your fan on. Make sure the glass is up when you're using that oven. All right, last thing's the fridge here. This is really simple to use. You got an on-off button over here to turn the thing on and off. There's also there's a light in the fridge too, and if you don't see that light come on, I mean, that's another indicator it's not running. But to turn the fridge on, you're just gonna push this on-off button. You can see the light comes on here now that I have turned it on. And if you look up here, you should see this auto light up as well. Auto's telling you it's gonna try electric first. But if you don't have electric, it's going to go to gas second, all by itself. So you don't have to manually switch it. Just leave it on auto and it'll switch itself. You can manually switch it if you'd like, and that's what this button is for. But if you leave it on auto, it will always work. It'll go between gas, electric on its own. Okay? Remember, these take a couple hours to get cold, so make sure you turn this thing on ahead of time. I want to show you these little storage clips. These are used over the winter time. Remember, this would be, I only have one hand here, so, but this basically, it clips onto the door, and what it does, you see, it keeps the door open just a little bit, and that's so it doesn't get, you know, mildew in there or anything when you're storing the camper. This opens the TV, push this little lever down, and I want to show you back here, there's a little button with a green light. That's to turn on and off the antenna. So if you want to use the antenna, make sure that's switched on. If you have cable, then make sure it's switched off, okay? The next step would be to turn on your TV. And on your remote control, right in the corner, you're going to see menu. You're going to press menu. Then, I'm trying to give you no glare here. What you'll do is you'll go down to where it says channels. And then you'll go into that menu. And then right here also you'll see it says antenna. If you have cable, you're going to want to switch this to cable. There's no cable here where I'm set up. I want to put it back on antenna. And you'll see the next option down, it says auto scan. Every time, you know, well, you're going to park this and set it up. But once you get this thing parked, you're going to want to come into that menu and run that auto scan. That's going to find all your local stations for you and load them up into the TV's memory. Once you do that, you only got to do that once unless you move the camper around. So remember, that's the menu, and then you're just using these arrows here to kind of go through the menus, okay? It's pretty simple, really. So I want to show you in the corner of the TV. That's the sensor for the remote. It's in the lower right corner. So just when you're using this thing, you know, just make sure you're kind of aiming the remote at this. You know, if you aim it up there, it's not going to work. Make sure you kind of aim it in the right spot, you know, so it works properly. Now down here, this is the radio. Turn this on for a second here. So that's your power button. So this is just on FM mode. I'm gonna change the station here. Okay. So down the bottom here, you're gonna see it says speaker zone 1, 2, 3, and on the display you're gonna see zone. If I hit 1, see it lights up. Hit 2, it lights up. 3, it lights up. So 1, 2, 3. 1 is the living room, 2 is the bedroom, 3 is the outside speaker. So that's where you put on which speakers you want to have running here. Again, right now we're in FM mode. There's also, there's a button here that says BT. That's Bluetooth if you want to have music from your phone. Okay, one more thing you can do here when you're on the, if you have your TV and your radio running, if you hit your mode button here, so you got to skip through, keep pushing it until you see HDMI ARC. And what that does, that's going to turn off the built-in speakers that are on the TV. And that plays your sound out of this sound bar here. And, you know, we found that sounds a lot better coming out of here than it does the TV speakers. So that's HDMI ARC. You just hit the mode button to get over that. So if you turn this on, it's probably going to go to FM first. So you just hit the mode button until you see that HDMI ARC come on. And now you'll get audio from your soundbar. Okay. So this also has a DVD player built in. There's a slot right here. If you wanted to play, you know, a DVD, you just basically put the disc in. It's going to play for you. I've got a disc in here right now. I'm just going to demo it for you. So what you do, you just put that in. It's going to say DVD. It may take a second here to start. On your remote control, you're going to push your input button.
Flagstaff is fully committed to manufacturing lightweight trailers.
And
division of Forest
on the menu, you're going to go down.
Is located in the heart of Amish country.
You're going to go down to where it says HDMI 1.
Brands of tent campers, travel trailers, and fifth wheels for 36.
And this is going to have your DVD on here now. Okay. Now to get back to TV,
Flagstaff is proud to announce
you're going to click input.
Products, the leader in heavy-duty
go back up to TV, and that'll get you back to TV mode.
Fifth wheel trailer can now be towed by a half-ton truck with short beds without the need for a slider.
Okay, a couple things in the drawer. You got your remote for the TV. That's a radio remote. There's a gas hose here for your griddle for the outside. This is all the paperwork for the unit. Kind of shows you the instructions manuals for everything. There's also in here, there's an optional water filter if you wanted to install that. That goes out in that front compartment behind the panel where all your water valves are. It's optional. You can put it in if you'd like. They give you one. You don't have to use it. Okay, in the bucket is your starter kit. And I'll go over some of the items in here with you. So this is a wash and wax. This is used on the exterior. This is a non-abrasive cleaner. It's something that's safe to use on the roof, the awning, your car. It's a nice soapy cleaner to use to keep it looking nice. There's also some RV marine toilet paper. Now this paper is special for RVs because when it sits in your holding tank, it will dissolve. And that's to prevent clogging and to prevent fouling the sensor that tells you how much water's in the tank. So make sure you use RV marine paper when you're out camping. There's also a 25-foot freshwater hose, and this is just like a garden hose, except this is drinking water safe. This is what you use to put water into your camper. And this is a waste hose, so this is what's used to empty the camper. On the other side, remember where you had the cap, where your black and gray valves are. You take the cap off, this screws on, the other end goes into the port in the ground. This is the electric adapter. This goes on the end of the cord, and this converts from a camper plug, which is a 30 amp, down to a 15 amp, so you can plug this in at home or with an extension cord if you need to. Inside this bag are 4 pouches or 3 pouches of the chemical for the toilet. And before you go camping, you take 1 pouch, you flush it down the toilet, and that stays in your holding tank while you're camping. The last item is the water pressure regulator. This screws on to the faucet at the campground before you connect your hose. And that's to limit the water pressure coming into your camper so that it doesn't damage anything inside the unit.